Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are here to talk about my best books of the year so far, a video that I love filming, as most people do on BookTube. It's such a fun time for me to look back on the books that I've really enjoyed reading so far, because sometimes I'm 6 months out from reading those books and I barely remember reading them in the first place. So this is such a fun journey to go back and look at all the books that I really enjoyed and to get to try and pick out the best of the best to share with you. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about how I'm going to break down my recommendations for my favorite books so far. Normally I'll do a ranked list, and I'm gonna sort of do that, but I've done varying amounts over the years. I think sometimes I've done as much as 15 and sometimes I've done as little as 8. I'm gonna be talking about 8 books here today, and I have them sort of in 2 categories, although I have ranked them within each category loosely. What does it all mean at the end of the day? I don't even know. But we have my top 4 books, which I would say are books that I absolutely love and adore, and I do think they'll still remain on the list at the end of the year. And then I have 4 books that I also loved, but for whatever reason, they just don't feel right now like they have staying power to be on my top list of favorites by the time we get to the end of the year. And that could be because I have a little quibble with a portion of the book, or it just didn't give me that favorite book of all time feeling. Whatever it might be, it's in that category for some reason. This second category was so hard because honestly, I've read a lot of books that I loved and I think are in that really solid quality book category. So it was hard to narrow those down to 4, but I have tried to do it. So let's go ahead and get into the book. So we're going to start with the ones that love, but don't think they're going to be there at the end of the year. The first one in the 4th spot here is To and Fro by Leah Hager Cohen. This is published by Bellevue Literary Press, and I read this for my Republic of Consciousness reading vlog. This is a really interesting novel. It is a mirrored novel, so you read basically half of the book, and then once you get to the middle, the text starts to come in 2 different columns. One is upside down and one is right side up. And then when you finished reading that first section, you flip the book over and you start again from the other direction, reading all the way until the middle. You can theoretically start with either side. I started with the To side. The other side is called Fro, hence To and Fro from the title. This book was such a magical reading experience, especially the To side, which I would recommend starting with if you're waffling on the direction you want to start. That side is the more magical side. It's got more of a almost fantasy element. You're in the POV of a young girl who is in this foreign land that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Think of a world that a young girl would create. It's incomplete in some ways, or very basic and simplistic in ways. And our main protagonist is going on a quest because a man that she's come to grow attached to has gone off on a journey, and she decides to follow him. Along the way, she meets a lot of casts of characters that impact her journey in one way or another, that help her learn about life. And it really is just so fun and upbeat and childlike, which I think is exactly what that section is going for. And I just absolutely adored it. It made me laugh, it made me cry, and it was a reading experience unlike many others that I've ever had. I haven't felt that way about a book in a long time. The reason why this isn't in the favorite, I think, at the end of the year list is because the Fro side was a little bit more lackluster for me. It's supposed to be lackluster in some regards compared to the first section, but I just struggled in some parts of the Fro side to really feel like it was all coming together. And honestly, I think the pacing wasn't the best on the Fro side either. But again, this was a magical book. I think in the blurb it says 2 beginnings, no end. And I love so many of the themes in the book and would definitely recommend it if you're wanting a really unique reading experience. Next up, in the number 3 spot, we have The Use of Photography by Annie Ernaux and Marc Marie. This is translated by Alison Strayer, and it's published by 7 Stories Press. As many people are, I am also a fan of Annie Ernaux, and this was such a unique work because it is co-authored. And the way that this book is laid out, it's nonfiction, by the way, I should say. Both of them were in a relationship with each other for a short period of time. And this book is laid out with an image that was taken most of the time in the aftermath of them having sex with one another. There's nothing explicit, like it's not showing bodies, it's not showing any humans. It's just showing like clothes strewn across the room, that type of thing. Or like the view from outside a window. And then they both write a journal entry about that photo. And you get both of their entries back to back. They don't write them together, they're written separately. And it was such a unique experiment, like creative experiment for a book. And it really felt like you got to be a part of this moment with them. And I spoke about this before, that it felt so voyeuristic, not in a sexual way, but just in this way of like really deeply getting to see some of the mundanity of someone's life and get to be them for a moment. And it was very impressive what they were able to do. This book also does talk about cancer because Annie Ernaux has cancer at the time and is actively going through treatment, and both of them frequently refer to that. And it's almost like this third person in the room between them, and that was also very fascinating, the way that it came up for both of them in similar and contrasting ways. So The Use of Photography, another really unique reading experiment, and I would highly recommend. Next up, in number 2, we have The Temple of Fortuna by Elodie Harper. This is published by Union Square, and this is the 3rd book in a series, the Wolf Den trilogy. And honestly, this is sort of a stand-in for the whole series. I know that's a little bit of a cop-out, but I can't separate out the last book without thinking of the other 2. And I would actually say the first book is my favorite. The 2nd and 3rd book I think are great, but they're not perfect books for me. But because the first book sort of is a perfect book for me, and I've grown so attached to the characters and the world, it's set in Pompeii, and we are following Amara, who is one of the best characters I have read in a very long time. We start off the series, so you don't get any spoilers. We start off the series with her being sold into slavery because her father has passed away, and her mother and herself kind of find themselves destitute, and her mother doesn't have the money to pay for food for Amara, so she sells her thinking that she can be sold into a better life. And that is not what comes to pass. She ends up getting sold a couple of times and ends up working in a brothel in Pompeii, where she works under a very ruthless pimp, essentially. And this novel really does feature a cast of women as central characters. We follow the she-wolves, as they're called, that work at the Wolf Den, which is the name of the brothel, and all of the connections that are formed between them, very complicated connections that are formed between them. And it was such a complete rendering of a town. It was amazing what Elodie Harper was able to do. I could picture everything so vividly, and again, the character work is just so well done in this. And I am a character girly. That is what I care about most, I think, of anything in a novel, is if I find the characters interesting and rich and fascinating, I will just eat it up. And I definitely did that with this series. So I can't believe I've completed the series this year, finally, after so long. I read the first one like 4 years ago or something like that. And these books are so good. So The Temple of Fortuna is the one I read most recently. It's the last one, so I'm putting that in here as a stand-in, but all of the books are great, and I really think more people should read this series. So highly encourage you to check that out if it sounds interesting, or you like historical fiction or strong character-driven novels. It would work for any of those things. And then the top book in this section is Like a Sky Inside by Jakuta Alikavozovic, and translated from the French by Daniel Levin Becker. This is published by Fern Books. And I also read this book in the Republic of Consciousness Prize vlog. This book is the #1 book I have continued to think about of anything I've read so far this year. And the reason why this isn't in the favorites portion is because I do think there are sections of this book that fall flat for me. This book is sort of an experiment in and of itself. There's sort of a theme going on in my reading with that, but it was written after the author got to spend the night in the Louvre and get to create a piece of art from that. And she created this book. It follows her spending the night in the Louvre, or at least the main character spending the night in the Louvre. And it talks a lot about her relationship with her father, which is very complicated. Her father was an immigrant and really assimilated to French culture. And this book talks a lot about art, and it talks about art in such a thought-provoking, beautiful way. And those are the passages that have stuck with me the most from this book and that I have continued to think about for months and months and months. I'm pretty sure I read this book in February, so a long time ago now. And I've had discussions with friends about ideas that were brought up in this book. It was just really impactful and continues to sit with me, and I will always appreciate it for that. It's definitely a book that I want to reread at some point in time. So another book I wanted to mention and couldn't pass up another opportunity to sneak in talking about it. So that is Like a Sky Inside. And now we're getting into the section of books that I think even at the end of the year are going to be up there. And I've also ranked these. So in 4th place, we have Madwoman by Chelsea Becker. This is published by Little Brown. This is Chelsea Beaker's first mainstream published novel. Previously, her books have been published through Catapult, which I'm sad she's no longer with Catapult, but I'm happy for her that I'm sure she got a great publishing deal and she's getting a little bit more visibility. This book is a deeply character-driven novel. We're following our main character, who is a mother, has a seemingly idyllic life, and we quickly find out that a lot of her life is built upon some pretty central lies. And lying has been a way for her to cope and get by and get ahead for a long time. And now things are kind of starting to hit the fan. But it's not in the typical way that maybe some books that are tackling that idea go about it. This book is really talking about how lies, even small lies, prevent intimacy that we often crave having with people. And it shows how everybody lies. Everybody lies, even if it's small little ways. And there are passages that have stuck with me from this as well that just felt so real. I mentioned this before in my review after I first read it, but this perfectly shows the ways that women often lie in order to keep the people around them happy. And sometimes they feel forced to keep the people around them happy at the expense of themselves. Even if it's a little lie by like saying everything's okay, right? Or not bringing up a complaint that you might have because you don't want to upset someone, whatever it might be. But I think it really accurately shows that the pressure that women feel to keep others around them happy and how impossible that really is. This main character is not likable. I always want to put that up front because I know that's a real turnoff for some people, but I don't mind that if the character is interesting, and this character is definitely brimming with interest. She is very into wellness culture. She's also very addicted to social media, addicted to making content and getting gratification through social media. Her life really is turned upside down when she makes a new female friend. The lies start adding up, are seemingly something she can no longer manage. Again, such a well done, character-driven book. There's a lot of intrigue. This book is really plotty. So if you love some good, juicy plot, this book will deliver that for you. And I just had such a fun, wacky, frustrating, and shocking time reading it. And I think that's all a testament to the author and how well she wrote this. So that is Madwoman. Next up, we have a very popular book that I took a chance on because it was getting so many reviews, but isn't typically something that I feel like I read, but apparently not, because I loved this. And that is Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. This is published by Henry Holt and has the amazing googly eye cover that is just iconic. Honestly, I love that cover so much. And this is another historical fiction, which I often say I don't read a lot of, but maybe I'm finding out that I do like historical fiction. I don't know. Glorious Exploits follows two out-of-work potters, or I should say, we're on the island of Syracuse right after the Peloponnesian War. We're following two out-of-work potters who are from Syracuse, and they decide to put on a play and use the Athenian prisoners of war, essentially, who are being kept down in a quarry, starved to death, or dying from dehydration. They see this as an opportunity to get incredibly cheap labor because they just have to pay them with food and water and put on this play. We're getting an interesting foil between the two potters. One is really in it for the art, and the other is in it for the potential money and prestige. This book is so surprising to me that I loved it because I thought about DNFing this book multiple times, all the way up until the halfway point. So I would encourage you, maybe if you are starting it and you're feeling similarly, continue through the halfway point. This book has so much payoff in the end, and it is a character study that really builds on itself. And the thing that impressed me the most about this book was the deep emotional impact it had on me. I sobbed. I sobbed while reading this book. This is the hardest I've cried all year, and I don't cry often, but it's not atypical for me to at least like well up or shed a tear. This one, I was like straight on sobbing, and from it to go from me wanting to DNF it multiple times to sobbing and loving the book, I think is highly impressive in and of itself. But this book takes so many interesting turns that I was not expecting it to take. There's these unique friendships that are formed between the Potters and the Athenians, and this desire to kind of see each other as people, even though there's been such divides drawn between them. We're getting a lot about class in this book. It's just very fascinating and really well done. Another thing people have talked about a lot with this is that the author is Irish. The book is written in an Irish dialect, which you would say is not historically accurate for the Peloponnesian War. One of the things the author is trying to say is that it could be any of us. It could be any of us, and these divides and these atrocities could be done by anyone and have been done by lots of people, and that war is horrific. It's horrific. So yeah, this book does so many good things. Other people have said many, many great things about it as well. So you probably don't just need to listen to me, but Glorious Exploits is number 3 on this list. Coming in at number 2, we have Sarahland by Sam Cohen. This is published by Grand Central Publishing. I loved this short story collection. I absolutely loved it. This is a short story collection that follows dark and subversive stories about women. The titular story, which I always mention, 1, because it's the titular story, and 2, because it's really good, is a cast of Sarahs who are very much like a la the Heathers. And one of the Sarahs is really trying to break out and be her own person. She wants to be her own Sarah, not just a Sarah, the Sarah. And she forms a new relationship with this other peer that she has at the school. They're all in college together. And that really takes her on a different path, on a different journey. There's one about a woman who starts to get involved in sex work. She's working at a female-run brothel house, essentially, and she ends up realizing that she has a specialty that she's very talented at. There's so many fascinating stories in this. I did mention this at the time, and it's worth mentioning again. This might be the best audiobook I've ever listened to, ever. It is so well narrated. Oh my God, I could not believe that it was one narrator doing all of these stories. It was so well done. And if you like short stories, that can be dark yet like punchy and edgy at the same time, this would really be for you. I would highly recommend it. It's so good. It's so good. And the story all revolves around Sarahs. That's why it's called Sarahland. So in every story, at least one of the characters is called Sarah or is heavily mentioning a Sarah. There's multiple mentions of Buffy in this collection because Buffy is played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, which I love. I'm such a Buffy fan. So this collection was phenomenal. I loved it. I'd love to reread it. And I hope other people read it too. And last up in my #1 spot so far for the year, can you guess it? I'm sure you can guess it if you've been around because it's Margo's Got Money Troubles. I am obsessed with this book. I'm obsessed with this book. Margo's Got Money Troubles is by Rufi Thorpe. It's published by William Morrow. This was another darling of last year. And oh my God, it's so good. Also an amazing audiobook. It's read by Elle Fanning. She does a spectacular job, and Elle Fanning is going to be playing Margo in the Apple TV adaptation for this. It's coming out as an Apple TV series, which I can't wait. It's going to be such a good series. I'm glad they're doing a series and not a movie because this book is jam-packed. It is jam-packed with plot and characters. I do not get how Rufi Thorpe pulled this off because it is theoretically way too much to have in a book, and she crushed it. She just absolutely crushed it. We are following the titular character, Margo, who has got money troubles. That's for sure. The title is accurate. She has a relationship with one of her professors at the community college that she's going to. She becomes pregnant. The professor basically says he wants to like clean his hands of the thing, wants nothing to do with it. Margo is in this place in her life where she is really trying to grapple with her own moral code. She's frequently thinking about what is right and what is wrong, and when she becomes pregnant, she decides that she thinks the right thing to do is to have the baby, even though pretty much everyone in her life is telling her not to have the baby. So she does, and quickly finds out that she cannot support the baby or herself really financially. She was working a waitressing job before, but the waitressing job doesn't even cover the cost of childcare, and she can't take the kid to that type of job. So she's trying to figure out what the fuck to do. Gets introduced to OnlyFans. This is sort of at the start of OnlyFans, and decides that this might be a potential career path that would allow her to be at home with her kid most of the time and make enough money to survive and be able to pay rent and pay for all of their bills. So she does, and we go from there. Again, so many interesting characters. There's a lot of secondary characters. They're all amazingly well written and fit into the plot in very precise ways. One of the best relationships in here that a lot of people mention is the relationship with her father. Her father is a retired professional wrestler, and the book makes a lot of interesting parallels between her work on OnlyFans and his work as a wrestler. They have so many wonderful discussions with each other. There's so much love, but also complication between them. He is a struggling addict, and this book does talk about substance abuse. And oh my God, I could just go on and on. This book tackles so much, like I said, but it's all amazing. It's amazing. Please read this book. Please read this book. It is so good. Another one I want to reread. I can't wait for the show. It's just like, you sometimes get those books and you're like, I cannot believe how well done this is. I just can't even believe it. It's something to behold. And I'm so happy that I got to read it. It was an absolute pleasure. Another one that is very comedic and funny. So those are the books that I have loved the most so far this year. I hope you found some things that you might be interested in picking up as well. I would love if people picked up these books and chatted to me about them because, they're so good and I want other people to love them too. And I want to chat about how much I love them and see what other people find to love about them. So please let me know if you have picked up any of these books and you want to talk about them. and let me know if you're interested in picking up any of these books. But most importantly, let me know your favorite books of the year so far so I can get some more on my list. And with that, friends, I will see you all in the next video. Bye.